Welcome to this session of the series of operations management. Today in this series, we are going to talk about a very important topic, which is material requirement planning, or most popularly it is known as MRP systems. So as the name indicates, material requirement planning will tell you about the requirement of the various kinds of material in any finished products. For example, if you take any product, let's say this company manufactures bicycles. So in a bicycle, bicycle is a finished product. So what are the materials which are required to manufacture one bicycle? So in a given production schedule, suppose in a week you want to produce 1000 bicycles. So what will be the various materials? Suppose in one bicycle you need 2 rims. So in 1000 bicycles you will need 2000 rims. You need 2 tires in one bicycle. So how many? So material requirement planning will calculate each and every part, each and every component. It may be a bolt, it may be a nut, it may be small screws, various sizes of screws. So everything it will calculate. So I told you a very simple example. In case if it is a product like big machinery, a material handling equipment, it may be a car. So there are hundreds of components. So material requirement planning is a software which calculates each component, that how many number of each component is required. So therefore, if we want to define MRP, so we can say that MRP is the system of planning and scheduling the time-phased material requirements for operations purposes or for production purposes. Or you can say it is a computational software that converts the master schedule of production into a detailed schedule for materials and components used in production. So as I said earlier, suppose you want to manufacture, say, a laptop. So in one day, this company manufactures 500 laptops. So every day, how many various kinds of components, how many motherboards it requires, how many other small transistors and other things it requires. So material requirement planning software will calculate that. So you can say that MRP, material requirement planning, determines the quantity of materials and the date on which these are needed for each phase of production. So MRP software also has the capability to schedule it, that on which date, on which week, or it can be on everyday basis, it can be on fortnight basis, it can be on daily basis. And then it is based on the principles of independent demand as well as dependent demand. There are certain products which are having independent demand. There are certain products which are having dependent demand. Independent demand, for example, laptop is having independent demand. It depends on the market condition. It depends on the requirement in the market. So because of the forecasting methods and marketing research methods, you can calculate what will be the demand for independent items. But the components which are required to manufacture a laptop will have dependent demand, because their demand is dependent on the number of laptops being sold. So MRP, when you feed in the software that what are the various components and what are the numbers of various components required to manufacture one finished product, so it calculates the dependent demand of, or it calculates the dependent item demand from the software. So what are the objectives of MRP or material requirement planning? Number one, inventory reduction. We don't want to have more inventories, so we want to calculate the exact inventory which is required for our production. So it reduces the delivery lead time also. So in the earlier sessions we have studied about what is lead time. So lead time is the time when you order a product and the time when you receive the product. Then you can have realistic commitments. You can give realistic commitments to your customers. Then it also helps in increasing the efficiency of a operation system, a production system. Then what are the advantages of this material requirement planning or MRP? It is very useful when there is a sudden change in demand. because of the market dynamics. So sudden change of demands, for example, you need more quantity. So immediately you can calculate what are the other components required. It, as we said earlier, it minimizes unnecessary inventory investment. And your machines and material utilization can also be planned in a better manner, and greater productivity can be achieved. So then another advantage of MRP is that sophisticated and mature approach of inventory control is there through MRP systems, and also it helps to improve the customer services. However, some people say that there are some disadvantages of MRP also. Why disadvantage? From the theory purpose, we will say that you need close monitoring of the material stocks. Always close monitoring of material stocks is there, so a lot of effort is required. Some specialized staff is required to work on MRP systems. Then secondly, we can say that it may have some high procurement costs because you have to process each item separately. So overall, we can say that material requirement planning, or MRP, it requires the planning and control of materials. We have to identify the component parts. They have to be aggregated and scheduled to be available in required quantity of finished products at the required time. So those are the various characteristics of MRP systems. So it helps in production planning and control. Rather, it helps in effective planning and control of the production systems. And how frequently this MRP can be done in a production system? It can be done every week in large industries, or in smaller industries it can be done in 2 months, in 3 months horizon. But yes, it is very important that the data in MRP system has to be entered correctly, and it should be reliable, because according to the data which you feed, it will give you the number of components. So basically, when there is a MRP system, the starting point of this MRP planning is you have to make the marketing plan. Now, how to make the marketing plan? You have to see, what is the demand for the independent items, and then accordingly you have to calculate the dependent items demand. So you then, based on the market data, you have to make your marketing plans, and then you have to convert your marketing plans into production plans, and then which are then linked to the resources plans. So let us see this slide on the chart, that material planning flow chart. So first of all, there will be a market plan. From the market plan, so how do you take the market plan? By doing the marketing research, by forecasting methods. From there you make your strategic plan, and in strategic plan there will be data coming from the financial plan also, and the strategic plan will convert into the production plan, that what items we have to manufacture, what should be the schedule of our production plan, and production plan will again get data from the resource plan. What are the resources required for the production, what human resources are required, what kind of materials are required, what kind of plant and machinery is required, what kind of infrastructure is required. And from this production plan, the data will be fed to the master production plan. Now, master production plan again is getting data from bill of materials and from plant capacity planning. We will be talking about bill of materials in detail. So, and then master production plan will give the data to the material requirement planning, that is MRP software. And again, MRP software is also getting data from the materials plan. So all these things are, you can see, are interlinked. So this is how the material planning flow chart happens, especially in a manufacturing unit. Now, I want to show you the ecosystem of the materials management department in an organization. For example, this is the materials management department. So you have a vendor development department wherein your suppliers and all are also developed for effective supply chain management. Then you have the purchasing department There could be another vertical in purchasing if some materials are to be imported from a foreign country. So there is an import section also. Then you have to have a stores department wherein the receipt of the material will take place. It will maintain the stocks, the inventories, the issuance department will be there. So on one side there is a receipt department, second side there is a issuance department within the organization. Then there is another vertical called transport, for shipment, for dispatch and for excise duty, if excise is applicable in that industry. Then the fourth department, broad department, is of material planning and inventory control. So this is what we are studying now. MRP systems and all come under this department. And then you have standardization, you have codification, you have variety reduction. So this is another department which is in vogue these days in industries, wherein the emphasis is on standardized parts. So basically material organization, you can organize material organization or material department by specialization or buying functions. You can have purchase department, for example, within purchase department, let's say there will be specialist who is specialized in purchasing of pumps. For electricals department, there is another staff. Then for forgings or castings or other stationary items, so you can have different specialists in the purchase department itself. So again, when you see this slide in material planning, again same thing, you do the forecast, you make from the sales forecast you make your production program, and the data from the production program will go to the material planning, and then there is a feedback and review system, and this feedback and review system will give feedback to the sales forecast also, to the production, because you will compare the sales forecast and your production program with the actual sales, with the actual production which is being made, actual materials which is required, and then make some corrective action in your next time forecast. Another slide, if you see, to give you the complete ecosystem, that material plan is there, inventory, norms, targets. So first of all, at the top, see from the top, there is a material requirement. And first of all, when the material requirement is there, you will see what is the inventory of material on hand. And if there is any shortage, then you will purchase that quantity. So next you will come to quantity of material to be purchased. So here, while purchasing, you have to forecast the prices, you have to see the rates, you have to ask for quotations, and then you have to see what is our purchase budget, and then you do the actual purchases. And then you see finally what was the variance in your materials, whether you have been able to meet your inventory norms or targets or not, and then you have to report those variance. So this is how this material department works. Okay, so now there are three components of MRP, and these three components are very important components, or you can say these are the three sources or three files or three kind of data which is required for MRP. Number one is the MPS, which is Master Production Schedule. Second is Bill of Materials. Just see this on the slide. I will show you this on the slide also. So in MRP systems, three sources or files are required as an input data for computations. Number one is Master Production Schedule, two is Bill of Materials file, and three Inventory Record file. So we will be discussing about them one by one. So what is a Master Production Schedule? Now Master Production Schedule will tell you the details, that how many final products have to be produced within a specified period of time. For example, again if it is an industry manufacturing, let's say ceiling fans. So how many different types of ceiling fans are required at the end of say 1 month? So it also tells you that what are the various quantities of various models to be produced. So, before master production schedule, usually an aggregate production plan is made by the manufacturing units. So, from this aggregate production plan, this data is culled out and put it in the master production schedule. Yes, while making the master production schedule, one has to see what are the capacity. In the earlier sessions, we had talked about capacity planning also. So, one has to see what are the capacity limitations. Then, so we can say that master production schedule file is a statement of time-phased plan for the total production activities. So, it tells you when a particular item has to be made. Basically, it is like a timetable. How much quantity has to be made and when it has to be made. And then you have to tell, what are the various products and then what are the various components and quantities are required. So, master production schedule file, we can say that the production cycle and the production schedule are generated in stages, and it includes products which are likely to go in the shipment process or in the dispatch process. So, material requirement can be broken in terms of weeks, it can, or days, as the case may be, depending on the size of the industry. However, smaller the time period, the more effective the material plan will be there. Now, second is the bill of materials file. What is bills of material file? Bill of material files tells you the exact quantities of the various components. At the very outset of this session, I told you about that. I gave you the example of bicycle. I gave you the example of a laptop. I gave you the example of a car. So, bill of materials means each and every component details have to be specified here, and the quantity of those components is specified. So, basically it tells you the part list, and it tells you the stages and the proper sequence through which the product is made. So, the production and planning department uses bill of materials to calculate the number of components. So, in other words, we can say that bill of materials is a record of all the components of an item, and then there is a parent relationship. There is a parent and component relationship. For example, I gave you the example of a bicycle. So, bicycle is a parent, and all the components required are, you can say, the children of this parent, that is main bicycle. And if you change the engineering design, the parent and component relationship will also change. So, it defines, in other words, bill of material defines the product structure. So, we will see this now through this slide, so it will be more clearer to you. Let us say we have taken a very, very simple example. Let us presume that we have to make a chair. Now, chair, what are the various sub-assemblies? So, chair is a level 0, because it's a finished product. Now, level 1 will include sub-assemblies. It requires one frame, it requires one back cushion, it requires one seat cushion, it requires 2 wood ends, and it requires some cross pieces. So, these are sub-assemblies. Now, within frame, to make one frame, you need further components. For frame, you need fabric, say 1.4 meters. Then you need fasteners, 4 number of fasteners. Then you want 3 tubes. Then you need webbing. Webbing is to make the frame. Actually, it's basically the rods which you want to make the frame. Similarly, for back cushion, you need foam, you need fabric. For again seat cushion, you need foam and fabric. So, like this, so on. So, the level 0 is the finished product. So, broadly level 1 is the sub-assembly, and level 2 tells you the components or the raw materials used to make the sub-assemblies. So it has broken down the various parts and components for a chair. So it is also known as a product structure for the chair. So this data will be fed in the MRP software. Now suppose in a week we want to make 200 chairs. So it will calculate each and every component, how much fabric is required to manufacture 200 chairs, how many wood is required, how many fasteners are required, and so on. So it helps you to calculate the quantity of each material and when it is required. Let us take, so therefore we will see another example also. So you can see this slide once again. So for example, the above bill of material means for 1 unit of chair one needs 2.7 units of fabric or 2.7 meters of fabric, or for 100 units of chair 27 units of fabric are required. So the technique for estimating material requirements, like we have just talked about, sales forecasting, past consumption analysis, and bill of materials explosion. Now let us see this another example. Here we are showing hierarchical levels of components required for assembly of an electric rice cooker. So in an electric rice cooker, you have a lid, one lid is required. So electric rice cooker is at level 0, and level 1 there are sub-assemblies. You need one lid, you need a steaming body, then you have one main body. So like this you have various measuring cup, etc. And to make one lid, what kind of, you need a knob, etc. For making a steaming body you need various components, so which you are seeing on the slide. So they are level 2. And further there is level 3 also. So there are screws, there are bolts, there are nuts required at level 3, and number of each component is also mentioned over there. So this is again the product structure for making one electric rice cooker. So this is known as the bill of materials. Now in the next slide you will see, so level 0 is electric rice cooker. Let's say you want to make 100 pieces of this. So lid, one lid is required for one cooker. So for 100 pieces you need 100 lids. Steaming body, one for each cooker, 100 total. Main body also 100, hot plate 100, measuring cup 100. Next slide you see nut. One nut is required, so 100 nuts are required. One knob is required for one cooker, so 100 knobs are required. Pilot lamp, again 100. Pilot lamp, two kinds of pilot lamp, one for warming, one for cooking. Switch button also 100. Lifting support, you need two lifting supports. One for the lid and one for the main body. So you need 200 lifting supports. You need 100 plug connection to the cooker. 100 electric wires, 100 plugs. Now level 3, each cooker requires 4 screws, so you will need 400 screws if you want to make 100 cookers, so 400 nuts. So I mean it's a simple common sense, but when you put it in the, when you put it in the MRP systems, then it becomes very easy. So imagine, we are taking very simple examples. Imagine if it is a very complicated product. So you can imagine how many parts are required to make one product. And if you want to make, in large industry, in a particular time period, they have to make hundreds and thousands of such materials. So how much material is required? Simple items like paper, sugar, so sugar industries, paper industry, they require hundreds of processes. They require hundreds of materials, hundreds of chemicals are required. So then in that case MRP becomes very complicated. So MRP through a computerized system, through a software, then becomes very easy. So that is why this process assumes importance. So I hope you have understood this bill of materials. Now the third component of MRP is inventory record file. Now you must know how much inventory is there lying. In your homes also, when you want to order anything, some kitchen items, etc., first of all you check what are the various items, what are the various pulses, salt, various spices, chili, vegetables, how much quantity it's available in the home, and then accordingly you want to order. So similarly, in inventory required file, you want to know what is the safety stock currently, safety stock level. So currently what will be the level? In the last session we talked about safety stock. Safety stock is the minimum amount of inventory which is kept so that when you order the new material, you have some materials to be consumed, and by the time your safety stock material is consumed, the new order arrives at your place. Then you have to have a lot size policy. That in the last session we studied about economic order quantity. So what should be the right quantity which we should order so that we achieve the optimization, that is where the carrying costs and ordering costs are equal and the overall costs are the minimum. So what is the lot size policy? What is the lead time? In each item, in some items you take more time to procure the item. In some items you take less time to procure. So time phased information is there. So in inventory record file, ordering of items at one time is not correct, as different materials have different lead times. So you make the use of your software, that is MRP software. So you have to have time phased information. You must know what are the gross requirements, what are the gross requirements of the products, what are the scheduled receipts, when you will be receiving the material, what is the in-hand inventory you are having, and what are the planned receipts of the materials, and what are the planned order releases are there. So based on that, so that data will also be given to the MRP software. So overall, what will be the output of MRP? The output of MRP will be that you will be getting the exact amount of materials which you have to order. So you can say it's the translation of master production schedule and other sources of demand into the requirement of all sub-assemblies, equipments, raw materials needed to produce parent items. So you will see this slide. So overall we have tried to summarize the MRP systems. In MRP processes, you get the data from the master production schedule file, and from where master production schedule is getting its data, it's getting the data from the sales forecast, it is getting the data from service parts requirement, it is getting the data from customer orders, and it is getting the data from engineering changes, because if there is any engineering changes, the bill of material file will also change. And then this data is fed to the MRP processor. MRP processor is again getting data from the bill of materials file and getting data from the inventory record file. And finally you get the output reports, that is how much finally materials and inventory you should have and what kind of materials you should procure. And it gives you the list of all the materials and including their schedules. So I hope this has given you an overall overview of the MRP systems. We will be talking about the further details of MRP systems and MRP2 systems also subsequently. So thank you.